There is a version of you that nobody can break. Not your past, not your failures, not the people who betrayed you, not the circumstances that tried to bury you, not the noise, the pressure, the criticism, the chaos, none of it. A version of you that walks through the fire and comes out the other side not just intact, but refined, sharper, calmer, more certain of who you are than you have ever been in your life. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is not something reserved for the spiritually gifted or the naturally strong or the people who somehow never got knocked down. It is built deliberately, habit by habit, day by day. In the ordinary, unglamorous, invisible moments that most people sleepwalk through without realizing that each one is a choice, and that the accumulation of those choices is what determines, more than anything else, who you become. 2,000 years ago, a man who had every reason to be broken chose not to be. His name was Epictetus. He was born into slavery. He had no freedom, no status, no rights, no possessions. His leg was permanently broken. Some accounts say by his own master, deliberately, as a demonstration of power. He had nothing the world recognizes as a foundation for a great life. And yet Epictetus became one of the most influential thinkers in human history, not despite his circumstances, because of what his circumstances forced him to discover. Because when you have been stripped of everything external, when the world has taken every comfort, every privilege, every protection, you either find what remains, what is truly and permanently yours, or you are destroyed. Epictetus found it, and then he spent the rest of his life teaching it. Today we are going to walk through 12 habits, rooted in the philosophy of Epictetus, that will build that same unbreakable inner foundation in you, not overnight, but consistently. One habit stacked on another, day after day, until the version of you that nobody can touch is not something you are waiting to become. It is something you are already building. Stay with me through all 12, because the power of this list is not in any single habit. It is in the combination, in the system, in what happens when 12 small daily practices compound into one extraordinary life. Let us begin. Habit 1. Start every morning by deciding who you will be, before the world decides for you. The most important minutes of your entire day are the first 5. Here is why. Most people wake up and immediately hand their mind to something external: the phone, the news, the notifications, the mental to-do list that starts assembling itself before they have even opened their eyes. And from that first moment, before they have made a single conscious choice, the day has already begun to happen to them rather than being shaped by them. Epictetus called this surrendering the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty, the part of you that governs everything else, your reason, your values, your judgment. Surrender that in the first 5 minutes and you spend the rest of the day in recovery mode, reacting to whatever the world throws at you without the anchor of a consciously chosen identity to hold you. His remedy was simple and radical. Decide before the day begins who you are going to be in it, not what you are going to do, not what you are going to achieve, who you are going to be, what virtues you are going to express, how you are going to respond to the inevitable frustrations, provocations, and difficulties the day will bring. He wrote, "First, say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." First, say to yourself what you would be. Every morning, before the phone, before the news, before anything external gets its hands on your mind, take 5 minutes. Sit with yourself. Ask, who am I today? What matters to me? What am I committed to? And then, when the day tests you, when the frustration arrives, when the provocation comes, you are not starting from zero. You are returning to something you already chose, a self you have already decided to be. This is habit 1, and if you do nothing else from this list, do this. Because everything that follows is easier when you begin from a place of conscious intention rather than reactive chaos. Habit 2, speak less. Mean everything you say. Here is what your words are actually doing to your power, and you probably have no idea. Epictetus had a rule about speech that sounds simple until you actually try to live by it. He wrote, "Be silent for the most part, or say only what is necessary, and say it in a few words." And then he went further, more specifically, more uncomfortably. Avoid swearing altogether if possible, and certainly do not swear by the gods. Avoid banquets given by strangers and the vulgar. But if the occasion arises to attend them, let your attention be careful not to lapse into vulgarity. Why did a philosopher spend time on something as seemingly minor as how much you talk? Because Epictetus understood something about words that most people have never considered. Every word you speak is an investment of your identity. The things you say, consistently, habitually, automatically, shape not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. They reveal your values, they display your character, and they either build your credibility and power in every room you enter, or they quietly, steadily erode it. The person who speaks constantly, who fills every silence, who has an opinion on everything, who talks more than they listen, is a person who is performing, who is filling space, who has not yet learned the difference between having something to say and needing to speak. The person who speaks little, who weighs their words, who listens more than they talk, who only opens their mouth when they have something genuinely worth saying, that person carries a quality of presence that the constant talker never achieves. When they speak, people listen. When they give their word, people believe it. When they offer their opinion, it carries weight. Start today, not with silence as a performance, with silence as a practice. Ask yourself, before you speak, does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said right now? And if the answer to any of those three questions is no, sit with the silence. You will find it is not empty. It is full of clarity, of presence, of the kind of quiet power that speaks for itself. Habit 3, do one hard thing every day before you do anything easy. This single habit separates the person you are from the person you are trying to become. Epictetus wrote, "No great thing is created suddenly any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." The blossom, the fruit, the ripening. None of it is sudden, none of it is dramatic. All of it is the product of consistent, patient, unglamorous effort, applied day after day in the absence of any guarantee that it is working. And the specific kind of effort that builds the untouchable person is not the effort that feels good. It is the effort that feels hard, the thing you want to avoid, the conversation you keep putting off, the workout you find reasons not to start, the creative work you open and close because beginning, it means risking imperfection, the difficult task that sits at the top of your mental list while you busily complete every easier thing around it. This is the thing, the hard thing. And Epictetus would tell you, do it first, before the easy rewards, before the comfortable routines, before the activities that feel productive but cost you nothing. Here is why this matters beyond productivity. Every time you do the hard thing first, you are sending a message to the deepest part of yourself. I am someone who does hard things. I am not governed by comfort. I am not controlled by avoidance. I choose difficulty when difficulty is what is required. And that message, repeated daily, compounded over months and years, becomes the bedrock of the untouchable identity. Because the person who has proven to themselves again and again that they can do hard things, that person is not afraid of hard things anymore. The difficulty that paralyzes others becomes for them simply the next thing on the list. And there is no more powerful place to operate from than that. Habit 4. Guard your attention. Like your life depends on it, because it does. In a world designed to steal your focus, attention is the most valuable thing you own. Are you protecting it? This habit may be the most urgently relevant one on this entire list for the world we are living in right now. Epictetus wrote, "Never say about anything I have lost it, but I have restored it to whom it belonged. And what belonged to no one but him, what he guarded with extraordinary jealousy, was his attention, his capacity for focused, deliberate, chosen thought. In a world without smartphones, without social media, without the engineered attention-stealing machinery of the modern digital environment, Epictetus still recognized that attention was the ultimate resource, that everything, character, achievement, wisdom, peace, flowed from the quality of what you gave your mind to. In our world, this has never been more critical and never been more under attack. Every platform, every notification, every algorithmically curated piece of content is designed by some of the most intelligent people on Earth to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible, regardless of whether what you are attending to is building you or consuming you. The untouchable person treats their attention as the precious, finite, irreplaceable resource it actually is. They decide, consciously, deliberately, what gets it and what does not. They protect the first hours of the day from digital noise because those are the hours when the mind is freshest and most capable of genuine depth. They choose what they consume rather than defaulting to whatever the algorithm surfaces. They say, regularly and without apology, "This does not get my attention." And over time, the quality of that protected attention compounds into something extraordinary. Depth of thought, clarity of judgment, the ability to sit with a problem long enough to actually solve it, the capacity for genuine creativity that only emerges when the mind has been given the space and silence to do its deepest work. Guard your attention, fiercely, daily, as if your future self is depending on it, because they are. Habit 3. Do one hard thing every day before you do anything easy. This single habit separates the person you are from the person you are trying to become. Epictetus wrote, "No great thing is created suddenly any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." The blossom, the fruit, the ripening. None of it is sudden, none of it is dramatic. All of it is the product of consistent, patient, unglamorous effort, applied day after day in the absence of any guarantee that it is working. And the specific kind of effort that builds the untouchable person is not the effort that feels good. It is the effort that feels hard, the thing you want to avoid, the conversation you keep putting off, the workout you find reasons not to start, the creative work you open and close because beginning, it means risking imperfection. The difficult task that sits at the top of your mental list while you busily complete every easier thing around it. This is the thing, the hard thing. And Epictetus would tell you, do it first, before the easy rewards, before the comfortable routines, before the activities that feel productive but cost you nothing. Here is why this matters beyond productivity. Every time you do the hard thing first, you are sending a message to the deepest part of yourself. I am someone who does hard things. I am not governed by comfort. I am not controlled by avoidance. I choose difficulty when difficulty is what is required. And that message, repeated daily, compounded over months and years, becomes the bedrock of the untouchable identity. Because the person who has proven to themselves again and again that they can do hard things, that person is not afraid of hard things anymore. The difficulty that paralyzes others becomes for them simply the next thing on the list. And there is no more powerful place to operate from than that. Habit 4. Guard your attention. Like your life depends on it, because it does. In a world designed to steal your focus, Attention is the most valuable thing you own. Are you protecting it? This habit may be the most urgently relevant one on this entire list for the world we are living in right now. Epictetus wrote, "Never say about anything I have lost it, but I have restored it to whom it belonged. And what belonged to no one but him, what he guarded with extraordinary jealousy, was his attention, his capacity for focused, deliberate, chosen thought. In a world without smartphones, without social media, without the engineered attention-stealing machinery of the modern digital environment, Epictetus still recognized that attention was the ultimate resource, that everything, character, achievement, wisdom, peace, flowed from the quality of what you gave your mind to. In our world, this has never been more critical and never been more under attack. Every platform, every notification, every algorithmically curated piece of content is designed by some of the most intelligent people on Earth to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible, regardless of whether what you are attending to is building you or consuming you. The untouchable person treats their attention as the precious, finite, irreplaceable resource it actually is. They decide, consciously, deliberately, what gets it and what does not. They protect the first hours of the day from digital noise because those are the hours when the mind is freshest and most capable of genuine depth. They choose what they consume rather than defaulting to whatever the algorithm surfaces. They say, regularly and without apology, "This does not get my attention." And over time, the quality of that protected attention compounds into something extraordinary. Depth of thought, clarity of judgment, the ability to sit with a problem long enough to actually solve it, the capacity for genuine creativity that only emerges when the mind has been given the space and silence to do its deepest work. Guard your attention, fiercely, daily, as if your future self is depending on it, because they are. Habit 5. Welcome criticism and use it like a weapon. Most people run from criticism. The untouchable person does something that will shock you. Here is something most people do with criticism. They defend against it. Immediately, automatically. The moment feedback arrives, especially critical feedback, the walls go up, the justifications come out, and the energy that could have been used to learn something goes entirely into protecting the ego. And here is what Epictetus said about that instinct. He said it was one of the clearest signs of a person who has not yet done the philosophical work. He wrote, "If someone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these.'" Read that again. Do not defend. Do not justify. Respond with, "He does not even know the half of it." This is not self-deprecation. This is the posture of a person so secure in their own self-knowledge, so genuinely committed to honest self-examination, that criticism from outside cannot threaten them, because they have already been harder on themselves than any critic could be, because they have already looked at their own faults clearly and honestly, because the opinion of someone who does not know them fully is at best partial data, and at worst, irrelevant. The habit Epictetus is prescribing here is a radical openness to criticism combined with a complete immunity to being destabilized by it. Hear it, consider it honestly. Take what is true and use it to grow. Discard what is false without drama or defensiveness, and remain throughout entirely grounded in your own clear-eyed self-assessment. This habit makes you untouchable because it removes one of the most common levers of social control, the fear of being criticized. When you genuinely welcome criticism, when you approach it with curiosity rather than defensiveness, the people who use it to wound you are suddenly operating with empty hands. You have taken the weapon and turned it into a tool. Habit 6. Eat, sleep, move. Like a philosopher takes it seriously. Epictetus had something to say about your body that almost nobody talks about, and it will change how you think about discipline. People are often surprised to discover that Epictetus, a philosopher of the mind, a man who lived in remarkable austerity, took the body seriously. Not because he worshipped physical appearance or performance, but because he understood something fundamental. The quality of your mind is inseparable from the state of your body, and the person who neglects their body while pursuing philosophical or intellectual development is building on a foundation that will eventually crack. He wrote, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." A tranquil flow of life. And one of the most reliable destroyers of that tranquility, one of the most consistent sources of emotional dysregulation, cognitive fog, poor judgment, and diminished resilience, is a body that is consistently deprived of what it needs to function. Sleep deprivation makes you anxious, reactive, and cognitively impaired. Poor nutrition clouds your thinking and destabilizes your mood. The absence of physical movement, of genuine sweat-producing, muscle-engaging effort, leaves the body in a state of chronic stress that bleeds directly into your mental and emotional life. The untouchable person treats their body like the instrument of their philosophy. They sleep enough, not as a luxury, but as a discipline. They eat in ways that fuel genuine mental and physical performance rather than merely satisfying immediate appetite. They move their body with genuine effort, regularly, because they know that the energy, the clarity, the emotional regulation that physical exercise produces is not optional. It is foundational. Epictetus lived simply. He did not indulge. He did not chase physical comfort. But he understood that the disciplined care of the body was part of the same practice as the disciplined care of the mind. One without the other is philosophy with a broken instrument. Care for both, every day. Habit 7. Choose your inner circle like your life depends on it. Epictetus said something about the people around you that will be uncomfortable to hear. But it might be the most important thing in this video. Epictetus was direct about this in a way that polite, modern conversation usually avoids. He wrote, "The man who is not master of himself cannot be master of anything. Above all, guard against associating with those whose opinion of you will cause you to lower your opinion of yourself." And elsewhere, "Be careful to leave your sons well instructed rather than rich, for the hopes of the instructed are better than the wealth of the ignorant." But the principle that cuts most sharply is this one. The people you spend the most time with are not just influencing your mood, they are shaping your character, quietly, consistently, invisibly. The standards they operate by become, over time, the standards you unconsciously adopt. The things they normalize, complaining, mediocrity, cynicism, small thinking, ethical compromise, become normalized for you. And the things they do not practice, discipline, growth, honesty, genuine ambition, become harder and harder for you to maintain alone. Epictetus was not prescribing snobbery. He was not saying that you only associate with people who have achieved more than you or who are more virtuous than you on some external scorecard. He was saying, choose people who make you want to be better, people in whose presence you feel the pull upward rather than the drift downward, people who challenge you, who hold you accountable, who are honest with you even when honesty is uncomfortable, and have the courage, the real difficult courage, to reduce the time you spend with people who consistently pull you in the other direction. Not with cruelty, not with judgment, but with the clear-eyed recognition that you become who you spend time with, and you have a responsibility to become someone worth spending time with. Habit 8. Practice gratitude as a daily act of war. This is not the gratitude you have heard about before. This is the Stoic version, and it is more powerful than anything the self-help world will tell you. When most people hear the word gratitude, They think of morning journal prompts and counting blessings, and there is nothing wrong with that. But Epictetus understood gratitude at a completely different level, as an act of philosophical resistance against one of the most destructive forces in human psychology. That force is the insatiability of desire. The way the human mind, left unchecked, always shifts its focus to what is missing rather than what is present, always compares current reality to an imagined better reality, always finds the gap, always suffers in the gap. Epictetus wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." The rejoicing is not passive. It is not a feeling that arrives on its own. It is a practice, a daily, deliberate, active practice of directing your attention toward what is present and valuable in your life right now, rather than letting your attention default, as it always will without intervention, to what is absent. Here is the Stoic version of this practice. Every day, morning or evening, consistently, ask yourself 3 questions. What do I have right now that I once did not have and desperately wanted? What relationships in my life, if I lost them tomorrow, would I realize I had never properly appreciated? And what difficulty or hardship in my past that I would never have chosen actually produce something in me that I am grateful for? These questions do more than generate good feelings. They rewire the attention. They train the mind to see what is actually there rather than what is missing. And the mind that can consistently see what is actually there rather than suffering in the endless gap between reality and fantasy is a mind that is genuinely difficult to manipulate, destabilize, or break. Practice it daily, not as a performance, as a war, against the insatiability that would otherwise consume you. Habit 9. Learn to sit with uncertainty and thrive in it. The world is getting more uncertain by the day. The untouchable person has a secret advantage here. Here is a question that will reveal something important about where you are right now in your inner development. When things are uncertain, when the outcome is unclear, when the future is genuinely unpredictable, when you do not know how something is going to turn out, what happens inside you? For most people, uncertainty produces anxiety, sometimes mild, sometimes overwhelming. The mind goes searching for certainty, running scenarios, calculating odds, imagining outcomes, desperately trying to resolve the ambiguity into something known and manageable. And in the absence of real certainty, it manufactures it, often in the form of worst-case scenarios that feel more tolerable than the open question. Epictetus saw through this completely. He wrote, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are." This is not resignation. This is not the instruction to stop caring about outcomes or to stop working toward what you want. It is the instruction to separate your inner peace from the resolution of uncertainty, to be able to function fully, effectively, with genuine clarity and engagement, even while the outcome remains unknown. And this is one of the most powerful competitive advantages a human being can have in the modern world. Because the modern world is relentlessly uncertain. Markets are uncertain. Relationships are uncertain. Health is uncertain. Careers are uncertain. The future, at every level, refuses to be resolved into something safe and predictable. The person who can only function in certainty is constantly at the mercy of circumstances. Every piece of ambiguity is a threat. Every unresolved question is a drain on their energy and their peace. But the person who has trained themselves to sit with uncertainty, to be genuinely okay in the open question, to function at full capacity even when the outcome is unknown, that person has an inner stability that circumstances simply cannot take away, because they have stopped requiring circumstances to be a particular way before they allow themselves to be okay. Practice sitting with uncertainty. Resist the urge to resolve every open question immediately. Let some things remain unanswered while you continue to act. and discover gradually that the open question is not the threat it felt like. It is simply the texture of a life fully lived. Habit 10. Give without expectation, or do not give at all. Most generosity is secretly transactional. Here is the Stoic way, and why it changes everything. Epictetus observes something about human generosity that most people find uncomfortable to examine in themselves. He noticed that most giving, most acts of kindness, help, and generosity carries within it a hidden expectation, not always conscious, not always acknowledged, but present nonetheless. I give you this, and in return, I expect gratitude, reciprocation, loyalty, at the very least, acknowledgement. And when those unspoken expectations are not met, when the gratitude does not come, when the reciprocation does not happen, when the loyalty proves conditional, the giver feels betrayed, resentful, used, and the relationship, instead of being strengthened by the act of generosity, is quietly poisoned by the disappointment of unmet expectations. Epictetus wrote, "Never say of anything, I have given it away, but I have restored it." He saw giving not as a transaction, but as a natural expression of character. You give because you are the kind of person who gives, because giving is consistent with your values, because the act of generosity is complete in itself in the moment it is performed, regardless of what follows from it. This habit makes you untouchable in a specific and profound way. It removes one of the most common sources of interpersonal suffering, the disappointment of unmet expectations. When you give without expectation, genuinely, not performatively, you are also releasing control over the outcome. You are not waiting to see if the giving was worth it. It was worth it the moment you did it, because it expressed something true about who you are. And the other gift this habit gives you is freedom from the manipulation of gratitude. The person who gives with expectation can be controlled by guilt, by the implied debt of their generosity. The person who gives freely, expecting nothing, owns nothing, and is owed nothing, and is therefore free. Habit 11. Rehearse your own death, so you can finally start living. This habit sounds terrifying. It is actually the most liberating thing on this entire list. Do not skip this one. I know the title feels dark. I know your first instinct might be to move on. Stay with me, because this habit, more than almost any other, has the power to fundamentally transform how you experience every single day of your life. Epictetus taught the practice of memento mori, the active, deliberate remembrance of your own mortality. Not as a morbid exercise, not as a dwelling in fear, but as the most powerful antidote to the two thieves that steal most people's lives, taking things for granted and postponing what actually matters. He wrote, "Never say of anything that I have lost it, but say I have restored it." And he taught his students to hold everything they valued, every relationship, every comfort, every day of health and vitality, with open hands, to love it fully, to appreciate it completely, but to hold it with the awareness that it is borrowed, that it will be returned, and that the day of its return is unknown. Here is the practice. Once a day, it takes 30 seconds, hold something you love in your mind, a person, your health, your ability to think clearly and move freely. And then ask yourself, what if today were the last day I had this? Not to generate fear, not to trigger grief, but to generate presence, to break through the numbness of familiarity that causes most people to sleepwalk past the best things in their lives without truly seeing them. The person who practices memento mori consistently is not gloomy. They are, paradoxically, more alive than almost anyone around them. Because they have stopped deferring, stopped taking for granted, stopped treating the present moment as merely a waiting room for some future point when their real life will finally begin. Your real life is now. Memento mori simply makes sure you know it. Habit 12. End every day with honest self-examination, not judgment. The last 10 minutes of your day might be the most powerful 10 minutes you are not using. We have arrived at the final habit, and it is the one that closes the loop. The practice that takes everything you have built throughout the day and transforms it into permanent growth. Epictetus did not invent this practice. He inherited it from an older Pythagorean tradition that the Stoics adopted and made central to their daily discipline. But he understood its function at the deepest level. He wrote, "We should not trust the masses who say only the free can be educated, but rather the philosophers who say only the educated are free." The education he is pointing to is not formal. It is not acquired in classrooms. It is the education of honest, daily self-examination. The practice of sitting with yourself at the end of each day and asking, without flinching, "Who was I today? Where did I live up to my values? Where did I fall short? What do I understand now that I did not understand this morning? And what will I do differently tomorrow?" Seneca described his own version of this practice, inherited from the Stoic tradition, in his essay on anger. He wrote that every night before sleep he called himself to account. Not harshly, not with self-flagellation, with the honest, patient, caring attention of a teacher reviewing a student's work, looking for what was done well, looking for what could be improved, and setting the intention for the next day. This is not guilt. This is growth. The person who examines themselves daily does not repeat the same mistakes indefinitely. They cannot, because they are paying attention, because they have created a feedback loop between who they are and who they intend to be. And that feedback loop, running consistently every night over months and years, is one of the most reliable engines of genuine character development that has ever been discovered. 10 minutes every night before sleep, in silence, with honesty and without cruelty. Ask who you were today and decide who you will be tomorrow. This is how the untouchable person is built, not in a single dramatic moment, not through a single transformative experience, but through the quiet, daily, consistent practice of becoming, 10 minutes at a time, 12 habits at a time, one day at a time. Epictetus began his life with nothing, no freedom, no security, no comfort, no guarantee of anything, and he became untouchable. Not because the world became easier, not because his circumstances improved, for a long time they did not, but because he developed through daily practice an inner life so solid, so grounded, so completely his own, that external circumstances simply could not reach the part of him that mattered most. That is what these 12 habits build. Not armor, not walls, not distance from the world or coldness toward the people in it, but a center, a self, an inner reality so clear and so stable that the storms of life, the criticism, the failure, the betrayal, the uncertainty, the loss, pass over it rather than through it. Wake up with intention, speak with purpose, do hard things first, guard your attention, welcome criticism, care for your body, choose your people wisely, practice deep gratitude, sit with uncertainty, give without expectation. Remember your mortality and examine yourself honestly every night. 12 habits, one extraordinary life. Epictetus built his on a broken leg, in chains, with nothing. What is your excuse? Which of these 12 habits are you starting tomorrow? Just one. Pick the one that hit you hardest, the one you know you need most, and commit to it in the comments right now. I read every single one. Let us hold each other accountable. If this video moves something in you, share it. Put it in front of someone who is ready to stop being touched by every storm life throws at them, someone who is ready to build the untouchable version of themselves. Subscribe, hit the bell. Every week, we go deeper into the ancient wisdom that builds modern strength. No shortcuts, no noise, just real philosophy for a real life. Until next time, build the habit. Become untouchable.